another offering from the StandUpTalk Radio Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Sal's Comedy Hole podcast here at Sal's Comedy Hole in the heart of Hollywood. I'm here. I'm James Quinn, as always, every week. I'm here with my producer, Ari Mannis. Hey, Mari.
Hey, Mari. Good. It's good to be here, James.
Right. I get your name wrong today. I called you Mari.
It's because there's a lot of things on your mind.
Yeah. The first thing on my mind is last week we did our first semi-decent, almost good show. We've done like 8 of these, right?
Yeah. You were telling me about that on Sunday, you said.
Yeah, last week we did our first ever good podcast after 7 total misfires. Total
podcast. I thought you were talking about stand-up comedy shows.
Yeah, no, I've never done a good stand-up comedy show. We're talking about podcasts here.
Podcast. I put it up this morning.
Oh, okay. Well, then you beat me to my point. So last week we do a good show with Kyle Kreis on, and Kyle's doing it to promote his upcoming comedy gigs. It's now 7 days later. I get up this morning and I think, well, I'll listen back to my fantastic podcast from last week to prepare for today's podcast. I go to the StandUpTalk.com where you can find all sorts of podcasts, and the episode's not up there, Ari.
You know, I'm not going to lie to you. I was slow. I've had a busy week. I've been doing a lot of activities, and I forgot.
Okay, now busy week. Let me break into what busy week is for Ari, because Ari, I know you're not finger banging chicks. I know you're not pulling broads.
Man, I wish.
I know that you're doing a lot of skateboarding.
I skateboard from point A to point B, not recreationally, but as transportation, yes.
You don't have a full-time job.
Yeah, but see here. I mean, you want me to break it down for you?
No, I don't want you to break it down. I want you to say, I was doing a lot of computer looking at YouTube clips.
Yeah,
and
I mean, no, I could have done it. I could have found the time. I
was
lazy. And but I put it up this morning.
So Kyle Kreis calls me from Chicago. He's about to go on stage at that big show that he was doing.
Yeah.
And he said, none of these people heard that podcast. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Luckily for the people who are on this show, they do get a big following after doing this podcast. So it is.
He was thinking maybe one person had heard Sal's Comedy Hole podcast on StandUpTalk.com that would go to his show and hold up a sign for him at least.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt anyone from Chicago listens.
Well, here's the thing.
Of the 6 people listening, I think none of them are from Chicago.
Here's the thing. He hasn't had that show yet, so I'm being facetious.
Oh, okay, good.
But that's the eventual point of doing a podcast, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's one of them.
So the turnaround on the episode's got to be 24 hours, because what if, say I have the incredible contemporary comedian Jared Levin on, right? And say we get him... Say we get him to talk for longer than 3 seconds at a clip on the podcast, and he says something about the Boston Marathon bombing, right?
Right. Yeah, to keep it relevant.
We don't want that a month later.
Right.
Say he does the typical, I heard they all had a blast.
Say no more.
Right.
From now on, I'll have a faster turnaround. Especially like, I have a priority list with the podcast.
Right.
And, for example, like we do this one called Toss Salad Podcast. That's like bottom priority, you know?
Did you just say you have a priority list to a podcast, and that's why you didn't get to my episode?
No, I'm saying yours is at the top, actually.
Oh, it's at the top?
Yeah, because you give me a meal every time I do it.
I do. I give you a meal. I give you and the guest a meal every time.
So this is actually my number 1 most committed podcast.
Well, here's the thing. You record like 6 now, right? Or 5? Or
4 right
4
now.
podcasts. You do them, 3 of them you do in your own recording studio garage.
Right.
That you live in.
Right.
And people come to your place.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't get a T-shirt for the longest time, because I wouldn't come to your place. I said, you come to my professional comedy club, look at the stage, and we'll be in a real place. We'll eat real food, and we'll talk about real comedy.
Hey, I love it here. I mean, the sound quality is not as good in here, but it's a great place. I'm not complaining.
The sound quality is not as good?
Yeah, the production quality of my
for
studio
a podcast.
is better.
Like if we threw up mics and 100 people into your garage to do a stand-up comedy show, the sound quality probably wouldn't be that great either.
Oh, no. This would be a better place for a comedy show, but for a podcast.
Oh,
correct.
Yeah, I got
my
you.
Garage is better.
Well, Ari, thank you so much for my interesting morning when I couldn't find my own podcast on the big World Wide Web. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring on our guest today. He's a very special gentleman. I've known him for about 1.5 years now from doing mics and sitting and talking with him outside.
How would you describe him in one word?
In one word?
Yeah.
Well, he's a princess.
Okay,
He's
that's a good
he's
description.
very royal and regal and very outlandish. I would say
Yeah.
outlandish.
Outlandish. Yeah, you could say he's outlandish.
Ladies and gentlemen, and by the way, you screwed up that introduction.
Yeah,
You
I do.
screwed
you know,
up. I was
like
gonna
to keep you on your toes and throw bullets at you that you got to dodge.
This guy is extremely hardworking. We're going to get into his story about how to be a hardworking comic, and I think there's going to be a lot of struggle in this story, just from what I know already. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the guest, the host of the Toss Salad podcast and a comedian about town, Mr. Ricky Luna, everybody.
Hello.
Hi James.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi Mari.
Hello.
How you feeling this morning, Ricky?
I am feeling so good to be awake in the morning.
Right.
It's so cool.
Do you know that every single podcast I've told Ari to applaud for the guest, and
That's
he,
not true. You've never
every
told me.
single podcast he has not done
It's
it.
the first time you've told me.
I
I'll
did it
do
and you
if
didn't even
want
have to
me.
ask me.
Right, because you understand show business. You introduce someone, it's applause time.
Exactly.
Ari, I think a crash course in show business is what we're looking
I think
for.
you're confusing shows and podcasts.
I think you're confusing this as being some boring thing that shouldn't be part of show business. So you got to add the excitement. You got to blend the flavor. But
I think you're both confusing poop with pee
that's true.
That's-
and pee
yeah,
with
that-
poop. Both
you're
are
right.
equally relieving, but they're special in their own special ways.
They
You're
have
right.
their own unique enjoyment.
Je ne sais quoi.
You're right.
So Ricky Luna is a comedian. He comes from San Francisco, I believe.
Oh
right?
my God, that's really good, James. You're a
Well,
good
I know you
listener.
for a year and
You're
a
a
half.
man, and you're a good listener.
I'm a
You're
good listener.
That's very nice.
I think that's homophobic to guess San Francisco.
I'm not guessing.
It's right. He was right on the
I
money.
know. I'm just messing
Oh,
around.
okay.
We had a conversation about that from the Comedy Store. The whole "Where are you from?" conversation.
When was that? The day that you were coming in the middle of the day?
I did that for about 6 months.
Yes.
When I was pretending to go to work.
Oh
Like
my-
I would get up in the morning and get dressed for work, and I go, "Hey, see you later, honey." But I didn't have a job to go to.
Oh my
I had
God.
practically quit the job that I was at. It was very, very sick, very depraved.
That's kind of cool. You're Kathy Griffin's husband, ex-husband.
I am.
That was so bizarre.
I was gambling on the internet all day. No, I'd go to the Comedy Store and I'd sit there and I'd write jokes. And I don't know if you ever saw me drive by too, because I would judge if there was, if there's like 3 people on the patio,
Yeah.
you're not going to get any writing done.
Right. If there's another person,
Right.
maybe.
Well, another person you can still, you had stuff to do.
That's right.
Ricky would be in front of Ricky's an employee at the Comedy Store, and he'd be out front doing business
Business doing.
for the store. But let's get into the story. How do you start? How do you come about stand-up comedy, Rick?
Well, I was born April 11th, 1981, in
my
the
God.
little town of Bellflower, California, in Los Angeles County. Fast forward many years later, and then now I'm a stand-up comic.
that's a great story.
I started doing comedy in San Francisco.
Bellflower, California.
Yeah, in beautiful Bellflower, I started doing stand-up comedy in San Francisco at the Brainwash Cafe over there on 7th and Folsom Street. It was my birthday, and the guy whose name was Tony Sparks, who's like the grandfather of stand-up comedy in the Bay Area, basically saw me do a set. He said, "You got to do it," and I didn't come back for a year. And then
Didn't come back for a year from your first time.
from my first time, yeah. And then the second time that I did it, a year later, I went there with a bad attitude. I was like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this stupid shit. Look at all these dumb idiot fucking people. I don't want to be here. This is horrible. All these people are funnier than me. I don't want to be here. And then I did my set, and it was good, and I was holding court after the set, and it was really fun.
So you broke into comedy. You were clinging to fears.
Kind of, or maybe something like that. Yeah, fear. Yes, fear.
And so from humble beginnings and
Do you hear that?
yeah, I do. It's like it's a nasty crackling
I
sound.
think it's a ghost in the machine.
I think it's Ari. I think he's playing like Dig Dug or something.
Oh
some
yeah,
old
you're
school-
you're browsing the
You
internet.
guys hearing weird things?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because we're wearing headphones and you're on the internet with your whatever you were doing, and
You can't browse the internet with a computer that you're recording the podcast
Yeah.
with. You know that, Ari.
it's
My
probably not a good
bad.
idea.
My bad.
Were you doing something important, Ari? Were you putting up my podcast from
He
2
was
weeks
checking
ago?
his
Yeah.
he was checking OkCupid.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
I was checking
killing
my
this.
Cupid.
So what I know about Ricky, okay, you start in San Francisco.
Yes.
you start performing in San Francisco.
Correct.
What attracts you to stand-up comedy?
Well, when I was doing comedy in San Francisco, it was kind of like the palate cleanser because I was also doing drag at the same time. So I would go and, basically just being on stage, period. I've always been on stage. I always did theater when I was younger, like everybody else probably, but just didn't feel like right in it,
Right.
So stand-up comedy, at least up there in the Bay Area or at San Francisco, when I was doing it, you could go from 5 or 6 o'clock, and there was only one mic you could do a day.
Really?
But everybody would go to that one mic, Sunday through Monday, and so you can get to know everybody and everything like that. And then at nighttime, after maybe 10 o'clock or 10:30 or 11 o'clock, there was there's nothing. So then I'd go do drag, which I actually liked a lot more than stand-up comedy because you could be more of an asshole kind of and get away with it because you were dressed like a woman.
I was going to say, and by drag you mean drag racing. You were racing.
No, I mean dressed as a girl. DRAG.
Dressed as a girl. I've seen you dressed as a girl for the Don Barris, whatever it is he does.
Oh yeah, it was a ding dong show.
Yeah, but that was more of a wacky, flamboyant dress. Is that what drag is?
I think for me, every drag queen has their character. My character was like a small little girl, of a small 8-year-old girl. A small 11-year-old girl, prepubescent girl that grows up to be a 30-year-old woman, but never gets her period and never gets a set of tits. That's essentially my drag character. So yeah, it was a little more flamboyant. I had a backstory. Most drag queens don't have backstories.
With the one time I saw you in drag, you did have a full beard at the time. So that was what I mean by flamboyant.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Crazy outfit. So I always equate you, Ricky, with the struggle.
What's the struggle?
With struggling through life.
Okay.
While doing comedy at night, with really struggling because just from the little that I've known about you.
Yeah.
So a little bit about your personal life. How much have you struggled?
I have a good attitude, so I don't really see if there is struggle. It's I don't know. I was very lucky when I came to Hollywood because my friend was moving in with her boyfriend, and she had a month left on her lease. So I got a month of a 2-bedroom apartment in East Hollywood all to myself, and just did comedy that whole month and got to know the scene and for a month, and I was so lucky for that. And then after that was the calm before the storm, which I ddid not see in the time because I was like too busy waking up in the morning, eating eggs and going like, wow, this is great, I'm eating eggs in Hollywood, yeah!
in my free 2-bedroom apartment.
And I was so excited. I would just walk around naked. I had a whole room where I would just put the Bible on a cardboard box in the corner, and I was like, this is the Bible room. I was very romantic, I was like, this is gonna humble beginnings right here. And then I really got humbled, and the next week after that I was sleeping in a garage with this guy in a consignment shop and his dog.
That's what I mean by struggle. See, I believe in every comedian adheres to whatever level of struggle they're comfortable with, and that struggle breeds invention. And the wildly creative comedians usually struggle in their personal lives to a ridiculous extent. And I say this because I know of at least 2 jobs that you created for yourself to get by.
How's that?
You were cleaning one place.
Yeah.
And I know that was just a suggestion that you must have made. Hey, Marty, I'll do this.
The thing is that I don't know. I think I heard you one day, and I totally hallucinated it because, or maybe you guys were joking. You and Marty were joking. I cleaned this place called Marty's Comedy
Open
Hole.
Mic.
Marty's Open Mic. And hey, love him to death. He's a really cool guy. He's really nice. He always bums me cigarettes or always asks me for or asks if I need a cigarette. Yeah. He's a very, very cool guy. And that place I love so much because you can go in there as a comic, and if you use it the right way, you can use it the right way. If you just go in there with a cynical, not like with a bad attitude, then you can go in there and be like, fuck this place sucks. But I've actually gotten some really good jokes out of that I've taken out somewhere else and so it's really good. But so James Quinn was talking with Marty one day during the open mic and was saying, I'm a paid host. I was like, you're a paid host? I want to do that. So I went up to him, asked him, how do you get paid as a host here? He's like, I don't pay any of my hosts here. I said, well, oh, cool. I said, well, do you have any Mexican jobs that you need? And he said, yeah. And he's like, yeah, you can come and clean.
The Mexican job. Do you have any under-the-table cash jobs that you could possibly throw my way?
And he graciously did do that. And for the first 6 months I was here in LA, I lived off of $40 a week. I mean, not $40. At the beginning, he was paying me $30. When Brad Sachs gave Marty those couches, that's when I asked him for $40 because I'd have to move the couches, sweep behind him, mop behind him, and then move the couches back. And it was so ugh. And at that time, I was staying up till 3 in the morning, and I have to get to Marty's early, like at 1 o'clock or something. I just fall asleep in the park earlier until 5 o'clock or whenever.
So the struggle involves a little bit of homelessness, a little bit of hunger,
a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll,
despair.
You know,
what's a guy to do here in Hollywood with their little struggle? So Marty's is interesting in how I get to know people because I know a lot of people from Marty's because I have no life outside of the couple of open mics that I go to and the few shows that I do. It really is. It gets to be that way too. You find numbers on your phone that you haven't called in 5 years, and they're regular people. And you go, I'm never calling this regular person again. But I'm at Marty's, and this black girl's doing a horrible set of just boring talk, and she got onto porn stars, and she said, don't they have any awareness or shame or something?
Jesus,
she was talking about the AVN Awards, and I'm waiting for the punchline. She's never getting to a punchline. And Ricky springs out of his chair. There's only 6 people in the room at the time, maybe even 5. It's really a depressing open mic. And Ricky springs out of his chair. I'm sick of you shaming people. And you were yelling at her.
I was livid. Oh.
She starts yelling back, right? And really, and I'm forgetting the brunt of, I didn't set this up properly. They go face to face to they're going to fight. And they're turning over tables and chairs to yell at each other even louder.
She was turning over tables. I didn't move because you know what? I didn't move. I just sat there. I'm like, you're not going to scare me and intimidate me with your attitude and your
female weak muscle.
And then,
oh my goodness.
I said black girl for a reason. I normally would just say comedian and then say how bored I was. But I say black girl for a reason because I don't know everyone in the room. And there's 4 21 to 24-year-old thuggish-looking black guys hanging out in the lobby. They're not even inside watching the mic. And she goes out and complains to them, and they come in looking for a fight because someone in the room upset this poor girl who was trying to do her set. And she totally explained everything backwards to make it look like she was Jesus on the cross.
Yeah, everyone has their side of the story.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And so these guys come in, what's going on? And then people from the back room, Marty's has a second stage. So they come in, and now there's an 8-person. I thought it was going to be a brawl, and I'm hosting an open mic, so I'm back up on the stage going, "Everybody, calm down. Why don't you have a seat, and we'll get the thing back." And Ricky is screaming. Ricky, you have a decibel level to your voice when you're animated that is people living in different towns they can see the birds shuffle on the trees and go, "Oh, Ricky must be screaming over in Hollywood.
So good.
He must be screaming." And this black girl, she wasn't letting up either. She was pointing and she was pushing things and
she was very upset.
Yeah,
and you
extremely
were upset because you've done porn.
No, I was upset because I have done porn, and I was also upset because she was talking about Jesus and she was saying, well, you know what, that's how she opened her set. Right. She was I love Jesus so much. I love Jesus. Jesus is so great. Blah, 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 blah. And then she went on to being this shameful person and shaming all of these sexual deviants, which, I mean, for the love of Pete, I mean, Jesus hung around with hookers and horrible people that everyone else would not hang out with. And this girl, and that's what really upset me. And the thing is that she had, and that was at a time when Marty was giving people 10 minutes. Then we only give people 5 or 6.
We were doing forever on that stage. Yeah. And she had no punchlines in her stuff.
And she just was going on, and she was only on minute 3 or 4.
I know.
And I was like, you're going to sit here, and I'm going to have to be infected because what we're doing doing what I feel when I'm watching somebody on stage is I'm taking in what they're giving me. And so this girl was giving me this, and I did not like the way that it was making me feel.
Right.
So I had to let a motherfucker know that I did not like what she was saying.
It was a full-on brawl in Marty's. No one punched each other, no
Right,
one
but
whatever,
there was,
but tables and chairs were
yeah.
being turned over and people were screaming, and I had to separate. First of all, I didn't do any of the actual physical separation. I had to instruct others on who to separate from who, and people were. I'm not a physical guy, so people get separated. Ricky's out on the patio. The black girl who was screaming, and by the way,
She got her money back. She got her $5 back.
The part of the story that's so interesting is who you end up remembering, and this is because Richard Pryor's son was one of the four guys in the brawl. I don't remember her name because she hasn't been back to comedy. Like
Right.
I haven't noticed her back in comedy, and that's how people quit comedy is they realize that they can't be questioned and there's no discussion and there's no anger. There's no humor in what they're doing, and therefore they can't discuss it.
Right.
So we settle everyone down, and I really thought that these four guys were going to kill Ricky. I thought they were going to tear him apart, and I settled as many people down as I could. I went down to the little liquor store, and I got myself a soda, and I came back, and they were hugging. They were high-fiving and hugging just about.
It's really weird.
Because Ricky had turned them around with his own sense of humor and his own description.
At this point.
Girl was gone. The girl took off. She started the brawl and said, I'm leaving. Yeah. So in whatever you said or did to those four gentlemen, and listen, I put nothing past you, but whatever you did for them, you won them over from sheer I'm just a comedian doing my...
Right.
Yeah. And there was no longer... And I think we had a good mic after that. I think things picked up.
That's good.
Yeah, I used to, at Marty's, I used to say, yeah, it's so tough being the only paid regular host here. And it drove people crazy.
People believed it.
People believed it.
I believed it enough to muscle my way into getting Marty to give me $30.
Right. I would get up there and I would say, this isn't worth $300 a week. It's just not. And people would go crazy thinking
That's
that I was
so
being
funny.
paid.
Because you sounded very legit. It sounded like $300. And I kept thinking because you said $200 because I did the math in my head at the time that I heard you, and I was like, $200, that's so great. I can't believe this place makes that much money. And I was like very hopeful. I was like, and I walked in there, I knew I could get it. I was like, I could get this job. I'll just waltz in here and get this job.
This job that doesn't exist.
I know. And then it was magic. It was magical.
It is magical.
Congratulations on your 6 listeners. I heard that Mari was saying earlier that you have 6 listeners.
Good job, Mari.
Yeah.
Wow, that's and you know what? I wasn't even able to listen to any of them because he doesn't put them up when I listen. So those are 6 genuine listeners.
You know, I miss 1 or 2 episodes. I'm a little late, and there's the heat I get. You know.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay.
A lot of work goes into it, James. I got to edit it.
So the
export
work
it,
of being
upload
the next time I talk to you at Extent is at the Comedy Store. You end up being an employee of the Comedy Store.
Right.
And I'm thinking that's also I'm going to walk in there and ask for a job situation.
The thing is I didn't even really foresee myself getting a job there.
Right.
I saw people getting jobs there. Like I used to, like Stuart Thompson. I saw him not sign his paperwork, but he had his employee handbook or something. And I was like, I want a job here,
right.
You know, because I started doing comedy, and Stuart started doing comedy approximately about the same time in San Francisco.
So you knew each other from San Francisco?
Yes, and it was so weird. I was like, oh my God, this and we never really talked up there, you know. He was like, we never really talked, but we were friendly with each other, you know. And so, but yeah, I saw him get his thing. I saw other people, and it just never occurred to me that I could get a job there. And then one day I was upstairs in the belly room, and I was just like, it had been 6 months of me living on this floor, living on a blanket, on a freaking thin blanket from freaking wherever.
More of the struggle.
Yeah, let's make this story real pathetic.
Violins, candlelight.
There was a dog turd in the corner that I remember seeing, and I was just like, well, maybe he has it there for a reason. I don't know. So I left it there, and I would sleep by this dog turd. It was kind of cool. And not by it, but in the same little square.
In the vicinity of,
right.
Yeah.
And so then I was just like tired. I hadn't taken a shower in a week, and was hungry. it was early in the week, so my Marty's $40 was
Gone
for the week, and I was just like, Tommy comes up to me, the talent coordinator, and he goes, Ricky Luna, what's going on? And I go, nothing, Tommy. I'm so freaking blah. And I think he gave me food that day or something. Tommy was always really, really nice to me during that time, because he just, like, my personality, he's just like, oh, you seem like a cool guy. And then he said, what's going on? And I said, nothing. I'm so hungry, and I'm so blah, blah, blah. And I'm just getting burnt out a little bit. I'm like, I need a job. I need to get a job somewhere, Tommy. He's like, where were you going to get a job at? And I was like, I don't know. And then flippantly I said, well, you should just give me a job here.
Give me a job here. Sign me up.
10 minutes later, Adam, Tommy is saying, yeah, okay. I thought he was bullshitting me.
Right.
Adam Egget comes up to me, the manager of the Comedy Store, and he says, all right, Tommy says you're going to, work here. When can, come tomorrow and we'll sign paperwork. And like the elation that came in my freaking whole body.
Right.
It was just
the
so
pure
stoked.
joy of just Hollywood providing, and it works out.
It's just so cool.
So I go up to the Comedy Store, and Ricky's sitting there, and I'm thinking, well, somebody has stolen my spot in Hollywood to write my jokes. Somebody else has come across my idea that you can sit on a patio on Sunset Boulevard in the sunshine and the beautiful weather and watch ladies walk by. And
John Waters walked by. I saw John
Waters,
Waters
sure.
walk by there one time.
Janine Garofalo walked by for me. She gave me the stink eye.
Ugh. You know who fucking walked by there? David Tell walked by there. And I was working there, and David Tell comes and stands right next to me, and he had a hat on, so I didn't recognize him.
I had the coolest moment at the Improv with David Tell. I was back and forth because I was on a shitty bringer show, and they have pro drop-ins, and the room was full, and I'm nervous as you wouldn't believe. And I don't know, I get nervous at certain places more than at somewhere else. Like the Improv is one of them. I get super nervous at the Improv.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's because I so want to be a part of it.
Right.
Yeah, that I get so nervous. So I'm back and forth from inside outside. I'm smoking, and this guy in a hoodie is like next to that old phone booth that there's no phone in it anymore, and he's like leaning there looking at the wall, and I'm like, why is this fucking guy looking at the wall? And I keep smoking cigarettes, and he keeps smoking cigarettes, and then it ends up being David Tell, and I end up talking to him for like half an hour about everything, about nervousness, about comedy, about whatever. He was such a cool guy. And it was cool. It was like, because I didn't want to be on the sidewalk and I didn't want to be in the room.
Right.
So just finally having something, I totally forgot I was nervous. It was great.
That's so excellent. When I was a little kid, I had a hugest crush on David Tell. On Insomniac, I used to watch that show and be like, God, I'm in love with David Tell. I want to be David Tell's boyfriend, because I thought he was gay, because, and he has this whole thing where everybody thinks he's gay all the time. I knew he was gay when I was like a little kid, and then I found out he wasn't gay. And so when he came up next to me, and I acted like a super bitch to him, he comes up and I think he started smoking, and then I look at him and I go, hey, you're David Tell. And then he goes, yeah, I'm David Tell. And he's like saying something like he got a book from the bookstore. I tried to make small talk with him, but I was so like enamored, but also so like, and that's what's weird about it, because
he might be playing hard to get, Ricky.
You know what?
The whole floating a rumor about him being straight, he might just really be, because the half hour that I talked to him out front of the Improv, he must have asked for your phone number like 3 times.
Oh, I'm so bummed. I should have just jumped on it. I'm so dumb. There's a lot of comedians that are around in the city that I saw on TV, and they were like really hot, or they were really funny and hot to me when I was like 10 or 11 or something like that. And now I see them, and I have this compulsion to go up to them and tell them how I was sexually attracted. Like I went up to Brian Callen one day, and I said, I used to masturbate to you when I was a little kid because you were the only gay thing. He's like, I get that all the time. Or he's like, we get that a lot from gay people. And then that was.
I never had that reaction to a comedian once.
I did, and then after that, like the first time, I was like, okay, that's funny, haha. And then I saw him over and over again, and I was like, felt so embarrassed that like, my God, you just told that guy you masturbated about him when you were a little kid. Like, how embarrassing! I said that to Michael Ian Black at a show in San Francisco, and I knew I wasn't going to see him ever again. So then I thought I would be okay when I saw Brian Callen, and I just embarrassed the shit out of myself.
So I see you out at the Comedy Store patio, and I'm thinking my spot is stolen. I'm not going to be able to sit there and write jokes. And then I go over, and it turns out Ricky's working there, and he's flagging people down and advertising the upcoming shows at the Comedy Store. It's sort of like a makeshift job, and I'm thinking that's a job that you must have created Marty style, where you just told them, listen, I'll go out and I'll do this.
I think I was slightly annoying them because I was working the back door, and I think I annoyed them to the point where
they put you on days.
They had to give somebody. They had to say, okay, well, we don't want to lose this kid, but we don't want to really be around him. So
how do you annoy them on the at the back door?
Because it's like important to know your place in any certain place, and that's the one thing I didn't really see when I came to Hollywood. Because in San Francisco, there are no rules. There's everyone is trying to break the rules, be their own individual. It's a really good place to find your comedic voice, as they say, and do all that stuff because it's so free flowing. I mean, and we don't have any super duper famous movie star people. Everyone's basically kind of on the same level.
You're technically an equal if you get an equal laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can get a laugh, then you are freaking in the club. You're in the boys club.
Right.
And so that's how I was raised to approach a comedic social setting. And when I come up here, I realize there is a pecking order, and it's not it's not a boys club anymore. It's a fraternity
with cliques, and we might as well have army outfits with the fucking pins and medals that you have to earn over years because. People, do you have a manager? Do you have headshots? Do you have what? And everything that you click off that list makes you a more important person than the person you're talking to.
In a certain way, yeah, or it gives you kind of the feeling that you are, and that's not a bad thing necessarily because you've earned those things. Right. We all want to get those things, and and so when you earn another merit badge, then of course you're going to feel really good about it, and you also don't want to be knocked down a rung or a grade or whatever.
A couple years ago, I drove out to Colton, which is a little desert town way down the 10, to do a bar show, and I got paid.
Cool.
And I went with Munch, and he was telling me about how, okay, you've done the road. You can now have conversations with everybody that has done the road because you've done the road, you've been paid, and I was so excited for like a week. I was awesome. Like, wow, I've done the road, or I've been paid to do comedy. And you realize no one gives a fuck. No one gives a shit because you don't have that medal on your uniform that should say road comic.
Right. Yeah, I feel that's why I always, when people bring me up, they go, what do you want me to say about you? How do you want me to bring you up? And I always say he's a comic from San Francisco.
Comic from San Francisco.
Because I feel like that's kind of that's like, I don't know.
Have you played around with the introduction? Have you had introductions that now you would cringe at?
No. Yesterday I had the best introduction though. Oh my God, it was so great. Yesterday, Don Barris and all the Ding Dong cast girls. Because I used to be in the Ding Dong show, and then I had to leave for reasons left unsaid. And but they gave me the greatest interview. He drinks pee one time. He dressed up like a woman. He kissed a rabbi on stage with a tongue, and like it was like this list of all these things that I had done that I didn't really put together into, one list.
Right.
But when you say it as a list, it sounds like, who is this ridiculous person? I do not want to, I'll watch him, but I don't really want to touch him or he does, or
We're about to see a train wreck.
Yeah.
A flaming train wreck.
It was cool. I liked it. Now I never get introductions. I mean, anytime anybody's talking about me, it's always a good thing in my eyes.
I do those ridiculous bar shows I had for a while. Listen, it's always every 6 months I get a new flush of embarrassment of what I was doing the last 6 months as my act or my material or I go, I can't believe I fucking did that. I used to have people introduce me as a comedian you're gonna love to hate. Because I thought that was so funny in comparison to my act, and it's not. It's not even creative, and it was stupid. Horrible.
You should say something about your haircut. What people that are listening, the 6 people that are listening, you can't see. James used to have very kind of like hippie.
I had a ponytail.
Yeah, but uncute. Now you look
right because I look for cute.
I think you look very cute now. If I was your wife, I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna get some dick from my husband tonight.
She is. She's like that.
Is she like that now?
Yeah.
That's nice.
She enjoys the haircut.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Which,
really by the way, I did myself. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but I'm a very sentimental guy.
You're a comedian. You're a podcast host. You're a hair cutter guy.
Well, first of all, I cut my own hair over the sink. And I've
So
never,
good. It looks so good.
I have never had a haircut from a person except for once.
What was that? Your first haircut?
Well, here's the thing. Until I was like 8 or 9, my grandmother cut my hair, or my mother, like somebody, and then she passed away.
Oh.
You know, and then I just never. I grew super long hair, and I've never been to a super cuts or a pro cuts or like had someone. I don't know what they do at salons.
Right. It's pronounced salon.
Salon. So I go in, I'm getting a bushy, crazy ponytail this last time around. I wanted long hair again. I wanted to feel young again. I wanted to be as happy as I was when I was young and just getting laid all the time with my long hair.
Yeah.
And I go and this girl like trims my neck because the neck hair is getting a little crazy, and I get home and it doesn't look right, and I cut it all off, and I should have never done it because that was my last shot at having long hair, probably for the rest of my life. And I'm really depressed about it now.
I think that you should, it was like.
Because after this, I'm going to look like Jerry Garcia if I grow up back. I'm just going to get older and fatter. That's all I have to look forward to.
Here's the thing about you, though, is that your eyes are very, very, you have a very pretty eyes. And I don't mean to say that like in a gay way. Well, maybe I do a little bit. But you have very pretty eyes. And if you don't ever become homeless, your eyes will never change that color. So you will always have your eyes, no matter how fat and how disgusting you get, no matter how much neck crust you have underneath any of your tits and your belly or whatever, you're always going to have those color eyeballs. So you should always try and keep your body the same beauty as your eyeballs. If you have blue eyes, I have brown eyes. If you look at them in the light, they look like brown. So I always try and think like,
I think
my face is okay.
I think I just got a compliment on my eyes, but it involved the crust under my man tits. I think that's as backhanded as a compliment can possibly get. So Ricky, you're here in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You're working at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
You're surviving the struggle.
Barely.
And what's next? What's the goals?
The thing is that a girl never tells her goals because then they'll never come true. They're like wishes, I think. And also, the moment that you say anything that you're going to do, you're probably not going to do it because people that do that, myself included, by people, I mean me, myself. Every time I've ever said, I'm going to do this and told somebody about it, it never happens. And if it does happen, it's usually come out half-assedly. So, and the thing is, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm just leaving it up because, when I came to L.A., I sold jokes on Haight Street for $2 to get my bus fare to come down here. I sold jokes for 4 days. I got something like $100.
Sold jokes to other comedians?
Yeah, basically I went with no, not to other comedians, just but to
like reading them, like I'll
tourists
tell you
on the
joke.
street,
Yeah.
kind of. But I didn't. Here was my gimmick thing or whatever. I said, hate jokes. Give me $2 for a hate joke. This is what the peace sign means in San Francisco now. Give me $2. And then tourists would come up to me. They give me $2. I say, tell me something that you hate. And then they would tell me something that they hate, and I would turn it into a joke where it would be like for example, or tell me something that you love. I'm sorry. For example, this joke that I wrote for this woman, I said, tell me something you love. She said, I love apples. And so I said, what's the worst part about a man? Why is an apple better than a man? Because an apple doesn't cry when you spit out the seed, And then she loved that joke. She was very excited. It was like super.
Do they tip you after the $2?
I make them give me the money first.
Yeah. Okay. No, what I'm saying is there a tip usually? Is there?
No. This one lady gave me $10 because I wrote her 4 jokes or some shit like that. Well, sometimes they gave me food, but anyways. So then I came down there on joke telling money. And it was for Cindy's Bringer show. It was for one of Cindy's Bringer shows. Yeah. And then I just stayed here. I don't know. Did I plan on staying in Hollywood?
How do you feel about Bringer shows? We have an ongoing discussion here in the podcast.
As far as money stuff, finances and stuff?
I think.
What do you think about Bringer shows?
I think a Bringer show is like one of those badges that you get. That
you go through a stage of your career where you've done Bringer shows,
right? Where you definitely do Bringer shows until you realize that you're good enough, and then you decide to do podcasts or you decide to have your own show. That's not a Bringer show. That's at a bar. You do a bar show.
Do a mic at a bar where you come in once a week and you say hi to the owner and you set up and you bring in 6 comedians.
Well, yeah, you bring in however many comedians, and then you have them, and then you make them work in a room where everyone is talking, everyone wants to fuck each other, everyone is drunk off their ass, and you force them to listen to you. You are the one they have to listen to. That's good training, and you do a show like that. And, basically kind of, going from there, I guess.
Okay.
So...
Yeah, well, see, our ongoing discussion, and I've heard some people say bringer shows are useful. Where else are you going to get stage time? Where else are you going to get whatever?
Where else?
I think in Hollywood, bringer shows are cancer.
In a certain way, Darren Carter, one time, I was like, he had made this really cool comment about bringer shows. He's like, bringer shows are a very new thing. He said, when I started doing comedy, we didn't have bringer shows and stuff like that. They were relatively a new invention, which is, comedy was a new invention. So maybe, I don't know.
And it's a way, I think, it's a way for the middle layer that never pushed through of comics to get access to a stage and make some money and pay their rent.
True.
I mean, there's the middle people, the bringer bookers, that they're not going to succeed in comedy. They gave it their 14 years. Yeah. And now I don't know.
There are a lot of really great tragic stories in the bringer producers, like freaking whatever you want to call it. Like, man, I was in prison. I was in jail. I raped a girl. She died. I didn't know. I did my time. I had my kids. I came out, and I could be slanging dope on the street. I had to do it, or I could be doing a bringer show. I get, whatever. Do your bringer show. How about that?
do your bringer show.
Don't worry. These comics are going to complain about everything, whether it's a bringer show.
Well, I think they're cancer in just one way, in that first-year comics get on renowned stages.
Right.
And crowds come in, and they watch 10 first-year comics with 2 drop-ins. Mm-hmm. They start to get the feeling that comedy is a terrible thing to watch.
True.
And then the next time they see a comedy marquee, they're not impressed.
Right.
Because they sat through the worst show that they could ever possibly sit through, because they had 10 people that had no business being on that stage. Right. But they had 3 friends, all 10 people, so, right. It's bizarre.
I've seen some really... I've seen some bringer shows where there was some pleasant surprises, and it's beautifully magical when that happens.
Yeah. When a comic in their 3rd year breaks through and does a good set, and the room comes alive, but then what's the next comedian? Right. The next comedian is, hey guys, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah. It is what it is. I suppose. It is what it is, and it's like,
I'm half Latino, half German, so I tie my shoes in little Nazis. I mean, that's the next comic.
That's a good joke. Everyone
50-year-old joke. I saw someone do that on Refried Fridays at the Improv. I was so embarrassed. He did like 3 incredibly hack jokes back to back to back, but he had made them all Latino. So the crowd was like, "Oh wow!"
Can you hear this chewing gum? I mean, chewing
the ice.
Yeah.
That's from sexual frustration.
Can you hear? Somebody told me that.
Or iron deficiency.
How is the personal life going, by the way?
You know what? It's very funny because a lot of my act revolves around sexual humor.
Right.
And I really have been. I went on a date the other day, and I was like so bored. I hope he doesn't hear this, but I was so bored with him. He was like attractive. He had a nice neck. He had nice eyeballs. Everything like that. But I was just kind of like making him feel like...
What a bizarre set of things to be... Oh, look at the neck on that guy.
Look at the neck and the eyeballs on that,
Man.
It's like, it's just nice. If there's those are the first 2 things that I notice in a guy. Like if I see it, I'm attracted to somebody, then I'm like, his eyes and his neck. Those are the 2 things. I don't know. But I don't really go on dates. I don't really like to go on dates. I like to, meet gentlemen and then just... I don't know. What do you call it?
Bang. Do you like to just bang?
Blow them. And then,
do you like to cuddle?
No. With some people, but not with everybody.
Ari's a big cuddler.
I know. You are you're a cuddling top, as we say in there.
It's gross.
Wait, what do you mean by top?
You're a cuddling top. Like you're the big spoon.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Depending.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Now, Ari, could you date like a really tall girl? She's like, I am a cuddler. I want to cuddle you, Ari Mannis.
Not like a manly tall girl. I wouldn't mind dating a girl taller than me, but no girl taller than me wants
What
to
about
date
like
short guy.
a lady bodybuilder with a really pretty face?
no.
You couldn't do that?
No.
And she just wraps you up and cuddles with you
No.
for hours?
Couldn't do that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
But I could date like a 6-foot model girl, obviously.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
would never
that's
happen.
tough. Way to set yourself out there,
Yeah.
Ari. I'm glad that you could date a 6-foot model.
I mean, a 6-foot hot girl.
You are amazing. You should be the new Dobie Gillis.
What's that?
Dobie Gillis was this guy.
Gilligan played the character on TV.
Did he?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, Dobie Gillis.
Dobie Gillis.
Who's Dobie Gillis?
Okay, Dobie Gillis was like this teenage guy that was like girl crazy, and he was just always dating these different girls, but he was always so heartbroken.
It's a comic book, right?
I don't really know.
There was
Sounds like me.
There was a TV show starring the guy who played Gilligan on Gilligan's Island. It was his first show before Gilligan. It was black and white, and it was back in the day. It's called Dobie Gillis Show.
Wow, Dobie, da na 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 na.
Exciting.
So
We just tapped into comedy history, Ari, right here on the podcast.
Love it.
This is like the
I think you should do a series of webisodes that's called Ari Mannis's Girl Crazy, and it'll just be you in just chasing after girls, and then they do all the bitchy things that girls do,
Right.
and you actually get to the point where you're like, maybe she doesn't like me, and then you stop pursuing her, and then she can't stop calling you.
She can't get enough Ari after that.
Yeah, and then you guys cuddle, and every webisode ends with you cuddling a girl, and then the next one we don't even hear about the previous episode.
Right.
It's just a new girl
The
every
girl goes
single
away.
I
week.
would love that.
Because after the cuddling, some sex was expected, and Ari presents himself as a nice guy, and he overdoes it too much, I think, with the nice
just
guy.
being myself.
I don't think that you're a nice guy. I think
no.
that you're a good guy because you don't sugarcoat shit. Nice is like a Southern bullshit thing where they say, "Well, Lord, come on in here, and we'll just have you come in here. Now you sit in the blacks only table, but we'll have you in our house.
That's a good
sit
table.
over there, okay?" It's like that's nice. That's being nice. Ari doesn't sugarcoat things, and if he says he's not thinking about your feelings normally
Right.
when he says things, but whatever he's gonna say, it's gonna come out the way what he
Well,
what
the
he
thing
means,
is,
it
too,
seems
he's not capable of thinking about your feelings. There's a difference. He's not thinking about your feelings because he's busy or because he's what. It's just he's not capable.
I think it's
of-
because he's a man.
he presents himself as nice.
I'm just presenting myself as myself, James. But thank you for calling me nice. I appreciate that.
I said you present yourself as nice. I wouldn't put nice past.
Thank you for saying I'm a nice guy, James. That's nice of you to say.
So you can see Ricky Luna on the stages all around Southern California. You can see James Quinn on the stages all around Southern California. You can see Ari on his skateboard, on Melrose, on Sunset, on
From Santa Cruz to
from
San
Santa
Diego.
Cruz to San Diego. He does the long distance. We talked about him being the Guinness Book World Record holder for long distance skateboarding.
Look at me, I'm Ari Mannis. I'm a skateboard from California. I'm a fucking idiot.
He is kind of an idiot, but so you can catch us on all over the stages, and you've said that you're not going to publicly announce what's next for.
Well, I mean, exactly what's next. Every Wednesday at this place called Casey's Irish Pub. Either me, I try to be there as much as I can. But anyways, at Casey's Irish Pub at 613 Grand Avenue every Wednesday at 9:30. There's like a speakeasy show that's in the back. It's in this place called the Jameson Lounge or the Jameson
Is
Theater.
that with Hanuk?
Hanuk and Griff
Hanuk,
Pippin.
Pippin,
It's such a
Jake
great show.
Mayer.
There's so many good comics that go there from the Comedy Store. Every week we've had good people that have written for SNL. Just really, really good people that are. I mean,
Not good people, but
good comics.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very few comics are good people.
that's-
You can't.
Yeah.
Don't start blending those two
I mean,
things.
yeah, exactly.
People that might make you laugh. You mean?
Yeah, they're really good. And by people, I mean comics, of course, because those are the only type of people.
And
that
by
I don't-
comics, you mean stoners who stumble in off the street, do their set, stumble back out.
Ugh, you know what? I'm so jealous of those people, of all those people that can drink and do drugs while
Yeah.
they're doing comedy, and then it's flawless, and it's like
Yeah.
exactly like how you would think. I can't do
It's
that.
because how they practice comedy.
I guess
Yeah.
yeah.
Muscle memory.
On May 15th, I'm gonna be at 3rd Street Station, which is at 8486 La Cienega, I think it is. That's Sir Jonathan Dane's show. He's really cool. This is the second time I'll do his show. And then this is on April 30th. I'll be at Universal Bar and Grill.
Universal Bar and Grill. You're plugging on April 30th.
I love that place. It feels so trashy. It feels so
fun.
White trash, but it's cool.
So
it's
small.
nice. Yeah, and that room is like the quintessential drunken bar show.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I'm in San Francisco.
But right in the heart of where you think show business would be pulsating, there's this little bar where you can go in and you can throw cigarette butts into the river behind it.
Oh my God, the time forgot.
Yeah. Oh.
That town, I don't know, just whatever.
And you can see me, depending on when you listen to this podcast, either next Friday or last Friday, on the Dave Berger show here at Sal's Comedy Hole. I'll be breaking out my brand new material, and you can see Ari, you got a gig coming up.
I am doing Comedy Juice this Thursday at the Pasadena Ice House.
Ice House, wow.
And I will be at Hooters on Hollywood Boulevard.
Hooters just got shut down for a bomb scare last week.
God.
Did you remember that?
Right.
Are you okay?
Cool story. I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
Oh my God,
I do
thank
appreciate that.
Yes.
But we had to cancel one of the shows. But yeah, you can just go to arimannis.com, 2 N's in Mannis, to check my upcoming shows.
They get the bomb scare out of the way so Ari can get up there and bomb freely. Bomb freely, Ari.
Yes.
What's bomb mean?
What does bomb mean? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Sal's Comedy Hole podcast. I think we've done another good one, Ari.
I liked it.
I think that we're going to be putting this one up sooner
Yes, sir.
than we did last one. We'll bookend it with Kyle Kreis's. They'll both be fresh and brand new, and that way we don't have to listen to DeMar and Jared Levin anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Sal's Comedy Hole podcast, everybody.